Hi guys, it's Kieran from the One Zen Academy. Hope this finds you well. So as part of our Personal Training Diploma course, we deliver the qualification, but we pride ourselves in going above and beyond with regards to how we empower our personal trainers to be able to get meaningful, long-lasting results for their clients. So I worked for a company, one of the top providers in these qualifications for over 6 years. And I can safely say that we were putting personal trainers out into the world who were missing certain things. They were very, good trainers, but they had no idea how to get the clients, how to establish meaningful, long-lasting results. And we're kind of, the term is one-trick ponies, which if you're listening from any other country, that is a UK-ism. It means they've only got one tool in their toolbox. So everyone gets the same treatment, basically. So I decided to leave that company and I created my own academy because I really care about putting out fantastic, holistic personal trainers out into the world, because if these trainers are helping people, then it spreads my reach from my core values, which is to improve the health and wellness of everyone I meet. So if I can train people to do that, I can put more people out there. Hope that makes sense. So I'm going to give you basically a few slides of one of the lectures that we do later on in the PT diploma. This also runs as a separate course as well. And this is about health empowerment, and you'll find that this goes from physical activity then into running, or what running could be, and so on. So it's just a little snippet, no more than that. So as you can see on the screen, you've got physical activity. So this is quite a few slides in. We know that on the left hand side, this is the minimum amount of movement you need to do per week for health. So 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity. So that could be like a brisk walk in your lunch break. 2 resistance exercise sessions. You don't have to go to a gym for this. This could be resistance band sessions. So anything where you're applying a resistance against the muscles in your body. If you're sitting down a lot, so for instance, the average Brit spends 14.5 hours sitting. Yes, you heard that right, 14.5 hours sitting. And we know that when we're sitting, there's a 40% greater disc pressure on your intervertebral discs in your spine, as opposed to when you're standing. So we know that if you stand for 5 minutes out of every hour, this alleviates back pain and joint pain. You also, if you're into calories, that is, you also burn an extra 100 calories in that day from just doing that one thing. 100 calories a day, if everything else is equal, is about a stone in the year. So if you're struggling to lose weight and you are a creature of habit and you eat the same things, you do the same stuff, and that's the only thing you change, you would, in essence, if you believe wholeheartedly the calorie hypothesis, is you would burn an extra stone in the year. Fantastic, right? So just by doing those things, you will get the things on the right. So you will get a decrease by 30% all-cause mortality. So in essence, you have a 30% decrease in dying from anything. Well, that's just good news. A 35% decrease in cardiovascular disease. So the biggest killer on the planet, you get a 35% decrease just by basically getting off your bum, going for a walk, and getting off your bum every 5 minutes out of every hour. That's an easy win. Decreased colon cancer by 30%, decreased breast cancer by 20%. And the big one for me, having worked in type 2 diabetes prevention for quite a while, is a 40% decrease in type 2 diabetes. So what you will have is, especially on Twitter and Instagram, you'll have fitness, wellness practitioners, PhDs, who are very, they have a certain ideology, and you'll get the certain people who are, type 2 diabetes prevention practitioners. They will come at it from a food. Food is the most important thing. You must work on food. It's crucial. Everything else is rubbish. You'll also then get the opposite. You'll get the more movement-based practitioners, the physical therapists and so on, who say, no, movement is the most important thing. The reality is they're both as important. So from just getting off your arse, you get a 40% decrease in type 2 diabetes. If you then sort out your diet and another lifestyle circumstance, you'll have basically 100% decrease in your chance of type 2 diabetes. It's a no-brainer. Just get off your bum, basically. Move if you want a decrease in cancer risk, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Basically, get off your ass. And that's really what we're promoting. Is, you know, my clients are struggling. They're not following the program. Okay, what can they do? Okay, and it's always important for a personal trainer or any health or fitness or wellness practitioner to start from where their clients are, not from where you are. Well, here's a diet plan. Why are you not following my diet plan? Because they're not invested in it. It doesn't mean anything to them. So work with them, okay, not against them. And that's really what this is about. What can they do? Can they go for a 30-minute walk on their lunch break? Can they set a timer that goes off the last 5 minutes out of every hour just to ignite them to stand up at their desk, or to go and make a cup of coffee, or go to the toilet, even if they don't need to go to the toilet? Just that 5 minutes is enough. So this bit is about the physical activity ideology. So these are a list of things that people believe that may or may not be true. So I'm going to read them out and then I'll take a dive into them. So the first one is: your footwear prevents or minimizes running injury. That's a very powerful belief. Heel-toe running is the best running. Don't believe those barefoot runners. I've heard this said to my face. We're not built for distance running. We should only be doing sprints. Running is bad for your knees. Completing long, slow running is not beneficial for fat loss or weight management. Aerobic training is bad for you. Our ancestors didn't do aerobic training, so neither should I. Bodybuilding is bad for you. You should lift big, train to failure, and HIIT training is the best way. So all of these are very, they come from a place of love. Okay, people wouldn't say these things if they didn't care. So I'll start from there. So things like your footwear prevents or minimizes running injury. There's never been a shred of evidence that stated any footwear will prevent or minimize running injury. Only in terms of, say, an impact. So you step on a stone. So if you've got a big cushioned sole, then that may help you. But other than that, it won't prevent anything. We know that, every year on year, there's still approximately 79% of all runners will develop a injury. The trainers get better and better and more expensive each year, and yet rate of injuries either stay the same on some years or increase in some years. So it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. Running is a skill that needs to be learnt, not a crutch that you just need to, invest in. So that's worth knowing, that you learn running, and you learn running well, and with proper program design and recovery strategies, you'll be fine. That's the truth, unfortunately. It's harder to sell though, right, than trainers in a box. Heel-toe is best for running. Don't believe barefoot runners. The reality is both have their pros and cons. I used to be heel-toe. I used to get injured all the time. Stress fractures, knee issues, hip issues, you name it, I had it. I then retrained myself to become more of a minimalist barefoot runner, forefoot runner, and I get the odd niggle now and then, and if I do, it's poor program design on my part. Oops. But I've been relatively fine. So there's pros and cons for both. Again, don't get kind of pushed into an ideology. My bias and belief is forefoot running. Whether that's minimalist or in a built-up trainer, but you should have a wide toe box to allow the 33 joints in your foot to be able to splay and do what they need to do. We're not built for distance running. We should only be doing sprints. Well, actually, there's a mixture. When you look at any population, there are a mixture of people who are built for distance running and a mixture of people who just aren't. Everyone, though, who is able-bodied is built for walking. And that really has been shown extensively through most studies that have been done. Everyone's built for walking, if obviously you're able-bodied. Running is bad for your knees. It's bad for your knees unfortunately, this is where heel toe may be an issue, is every time you land on your heel, you basically cause a braking action, and that vibrates your knee quite extensively. So what you'll find is if you're a heel toe runner, you'll suffer with more knee related injuries. If you're a forefoot runner, you tend to suffer from more ankle, Achilles type injuries. But what I would say is running bad for your knees, not if you're running correctly. If you learn the skill of running, your knees will be fine. If you're overstriding, for instance, then yeah, say goodbye to your knees in a few years. Top tip, that one. Make sure your foot lands underneath your hip. Completing long, slow running is not beneficial for fat loss or weight management. Well, it is. But at the bottom, we've got HIIT training is the best way. So high intensity interval training is the best way. Well, it's one way. They're both quite good for fat loss or weight management, depending on how you apply them. Just like anything in nature, you do too much of anything and it will shoot you in the foot, and nature doesn't like that. It likes variance. So maybe doing a mixture of long, slow running and short, sharp running, if you're running, that is probably the best way, along with decent recovery strategies. But completely long, slow running is not bad for you. It's the extent in which you complete long, slow running. So if you're doing it every day, well, that's going to be pretty bad. It's very catabolic by nature. If you're just having one long, slow run, on that Sunday morning because you're training for a marathon, brilliant. If the rest of your running is very short, sharp, well, that's fantastic. That will give you the best of both worlds. Aerobic training is bad for you? No, only when it's done in huge amounts. When it's done, so it's dose dependent, just like anything. So if it's done in the right doses, i.e. you're writing proper programs instead of, programs you see on YouTube, and bear in mind this video is on YouTube, then you'll be fine. Our ancestors didn't do aerobic training, so neither should I. Well, they didn't do any training, so that's true. But did they do aerobic activity? Extensively. Okay, you can't not. There's just no getting around that. I haven't read any bit of evidence that suggested otherwise, so I'm not sure where that comes from. Bodybuilding is bad for you. Not really. It's probably bad for you if you're injecting huge amounts of anabolic steroids. There's obviously going to be a payoff later in life. But is bodybuilding bad for you? No, there's a lot of pros. It's a discipline. If you're especially a young lad or a young woman, it gets you off the street. It gets you into a gym, training in a discipline. You often have to do high volume, so bodybuilders tend to then live in gyms, and you'll see them often carry bags around because they, in essence, during the day live out their bag with all their supplements, food, training kit, and so on. So it's not bad for you. It's a big social scene. It has a lot of pros. It's obviously not the best if you're then looking to pick up the pace and go for a run. But I think I don't need to spell that out. You should lift big. Every now and then, I think most people would benefit from lifting big. But again, just like the long, slow running, should you do it all the time? No. I've been down that road and I pretty much tore one of the main ligaments in my back and I was out of action for quite a while. There is a such thing as periodizing your training, and that's what you should do. And if you're not sure what periodization is, then come on our course. Train to failure. In fact, if you're looking at hypertrophy training, i.e. bodybuilding, you don't need to train to failure. So it's about getting your load and repetitions right, mixed with your volume. So it's high volume, i.e. per week, you're looking at above 10 sets per body part per week. And that's more important than training to failure. Training to failure is actually more important in weight training if you're doing more endurance stuff. So high repetition, training to failure is then more important. HIIT training is the best way. So I've already mentioned HIIT training. Year on year, every January, people feel guilty. They may not have been to the gym or trained for ages, and yet they go into the first class in a gym and it's a high intensity interval training session. I think PTs and studio professionals should know better. You should screen your class participants and not take money first. You should probably get some core values and realize that probably a third of your class shouldn't be there because they're not ready for it physically and mentally. And I think PTs and studio professionals should do more to encourage better periodization in their program, even if they teach other classes. So say, for instance, you're a studio trainer and you teach yoga, Pilates, you teach a basic circuit class and a HIIT training class, and you get a person who's never been to a class before turning up that January, it's been 2 years since been to the gym, they turn up to that HIIT training class, you should be saying, I'm sorry, you can't participate, but I teach this yoga class, I teach this basic conditioning class. These will really benefit you, and this is why. And this is why this may not be the best option right now. Instead of going, oh yeah, they're paying £6.50 or £8.50 or whatever it is per class. Oh yeah, I've got to get them in. Okay, stop thinking about your wallet and thinking about why you got into the industry, and think about placing the needs of your participants, of your clients first. So we then go on to basically back up some of our claims, obviously. Is your prescription of distance running shoe evidence-based? So this was by Richards et al. 2009, British Journal of Sports Medicine. And they looked at motion-controlled and cushioned heels in shoes when compared against injury rates in runners, and found that there was no original evidence to suggest that these type of shoes have any evidence that prevent injury in distance runners. So it's worth knowing that these reviews and these comparisons have been fairly extensive. I did have a lot of other references in there, but the original feedback I got from the original course was there was too many references. So I just have one, and if a student will then wants other references, I can give them. That's fine. So the question is, are we born to run? It's a yes and no question. So yes, most people are capable of moderate levels of endurance. Most people are capable of sprinting. We can, as humans, counter-rotate our upper and lower body. This allows us to be quite energy efficient. We have a spring in our feet, and we have a long Achilles, which can store and transmit force. Most other animals that look like us, like monkeys and apes, they don't have that. They can't counter-rotate, and they don't have long Achilles. Are we born to run? No. We see a lot of variability among humans. So some humans just can run longer, some can run a lot shorter. But locomotion is a yes. So everyone is optimal at brisk walk. And this has been shown fairly extensively. A brisk walk is by far the best thing for us than anything else, which is quite nice, really. And I'll carry on just for a little bit longer. This is just to give you an idea about sort of things that we go through, and we put all this into practice as well. So, in a gym environment, I'll get you on the treadmill. We'll look at each other's running and walking. I'll show you and coach you how to tweak each other's bodies, stretch, mobilize, strengthen, and so on. And so factors that will increase injury. So your mass, your overall weight, regardless of how strong you are. If your mass, your BMI is in the special attention range, the 27 plus, you're more likely to suffer an injury, because physics doesn't give a shit about how strong you are really in relation to this. So every step that you take is approximately 4.5 times your body weight. There is then a ground reaction force. So whatever you put into the ground, you get back, you're then fighting gravity. So your overall mass within that will increase those forces through your body. Your stride length, more specifically where your foot lands in relation to your body. So remember I mentioned it should land under your hips. That's exactly what it should be. So if you're overstriding, then you will definitely suffer an injury. So typical overstriding injuries could be definitely a knee issue. So like runner's knee, patella tendonitis. Specific overstriding injuries also could be like a hip related issue, like a lateral hip, like an inflamed trochanter bursitis. Shin splints are typical with overstriding as well. So if you suffer from shin splints, look at your stride length, shorten it. What else do we know? Factors that increase injury. Too much too soon. I just jump up one day. I think running is a good idea. I haven't really run in about 5 years, but I'm going to go and do like a 5k or a 10k. It's just too much. Maybe start with running around the block. See how that works out for you. You don't have to. You can chip away at this. You don't have to go all or nothing. Factors that may increase injury and will decrease performance. Your head position. So 80% of your proprioception, so that's knowing where your legs and hands are in space and times or where they land, for gait, i.e. when you're walking or running, is from C1 and 2. So this is basically the base of your neck. This is responsible, so your head position will determine the rest of your body. Your arm swing and head position, okay, we have the nuchal or nuptial ligament, and this ligament basically becomes taut and relaxed and allows for good arm swing and head position, but your head position has to be in the right position initially anyway. So posture is a big indicator. Improper programming, so again, too much too soon or not enough. Most runners, especially endurance runners, overtrain. You'll see this extensively. You'll hear it on an early morning run. If you're running with a group, everyone's talking about a back issue, a niggle here, a knee issue, everyone, okay? It's improper programming, either too much or the recovery strategies are shit. And this brings us on to poor nutrition, recovery, health and performance. Nutrition has to be on point. Improper recovery, injury, decrease or stagnant performance. Again, what does it look like? Do you keep getting injured? Well, it's time to do something about it. It's probably not your trainers, remember. It's something else that you're doing personally. So get it sorted. A decrease or stagnant performance. If you're not improving, then you're going backwards. Things that stagnate in nature tend to die. I know it's a bit of an extreme example, but this really is no different. So it's about kind of looking within and thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to improve on? And how we run. So we mentioned the nuchal ligament for head stabilization. We have short forearms that allows rotation of our trunk. A narrow pelvis, again, rotation of a trunk versus hips, and it reduces stress or vibration. We have large buttocks, long legs, long Achilles, a plantar arch, and short toes. And in the wider world, okay, and this is true with most things, everything's too compartmentalized. So the physical aspect, so you study, physiotherapy, and it's mechanistic, and it's all, this A equals B, definitely. Mental, we have psychologists. Spiritual, we have priests and religious leaders. But the reality is, we have too much individualized attention on one thing or the other. And the reality is, we need more of a broad spectrum, or at least people to be able to see the bigger picture that can then direct you to these people. Too much of the same thing will definitely cause injury. So too much of the same movement tends to be called an overuse injury. Too much of the same thing, habits, i.e. too much smoking. Too much eating of the same thing, or too much eating in general, I guess. We then have chronic stress, the physical and emotional, neuroendocrine disruption. So chronic stress, it could be from various sources. You've got chemical stresses from pollution. You've got physical stresses like too much training. You have emotional stresses. Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe there's some inner turmoil there. It's worth knowing that this will, completely mess up your nervous system, and your endocrine system is your hormonal system. So it completely mess up that. So if you're not getting the results you want, and you believe that everything is you're doing everything well, then maybe you look at the stress impact. And we look at these things all throughout the 7-month course that we do in the personal training. So remember, this is just a snapshot. We then go on in this particular lecture. we'll look at aerobic training. So remember, going back to what we were talking about, that our ancestors didn't do aerobic training. Well, actually they did. They travelled on average 10 kilometers a day. Through regular aerobic training, we can enhance learning. It stimulates this brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF, in your brain, funny enough, which basically is like fertilizer for your brain cells. So it allows you to form memories, learn faster, learn quicker, and we call that neurogenesis. Improve cognitive function, but we also, like I mentioned before, excessive amounts can be detrimental and do the opposite. So it can make those dendrites in your brain that form new memories, it can make them shrivel. Prolonged cortisol and adrenaline exposure from constant stress can be quite detrimental and actually narrow your field of vision and how you look at things. So you start looking at a bit doom and gloom. And huge excessive amounts can cause heart damage, which obviously is not the best because you only have one of those. So yeah. And I'll finish on this bit because I've been banging on for quite a while. Movement variability. So we've got movement, and we mentioned going on that 30-minute moderate intensity brisk walk is well worth doing. But on top of that, we have movement variability, and it's important to learn skill and mobility are priorities, especially as we get older. And you'll appreciate this as we get older. You know, I recently turned 40, and I can tell you now, skill of movement and mobility are definitely a priority. Consistency is a key, so making sure it's a regular practice, whatever it is that you're going to do, and build up slowly. It should cover all three planes of motion. So we're 3D, okay, 3 dimensions. So it should cover all 3 planes of movement, not just one direction. Mixture of all movement, and we call it primal and ancestral movement. And I'll just go on a bit just to show you what ancestral movement I mean. And it's your basic movements: your run, jump, crawl, push, pull, pick up, throw, catch, and climb. So what we would do in our session, we would then go into the gym, and we would cover all of these individually, and then we'd put them together in a circuit. And you may look at these and think, oh, that's easy, I can do all of those. But can you teach all of them? And how do you know what to put in a circuit? How do you know what works in a circuit session? And how can you coach that successfully in order for your clients to get results and to minimize any impact from injury? And that's really what we're looking at with that. And the benefits of this is proprioceptive, so you get actually enhanced memory and cognitive function, and they've shown this because they used to do this with a whole bunch of people, and they gave them like a maths test afterwards, and they would always test higher. Task complexity, so the more complex the task, it increases neuroplasticity, so our ability to learn and recover memory. Slow movement. So we can start with slow movement, and this will increase your attention and awareness, so making you nice and present. So it's sort of like a form of meditation. And variation will decrease your chance of injury or overuse injury over time. So we will end this bit there, but I hope this gives you a taste of all the things we go through. And like I said, we'll mix practical bits, practical sessions in with this to make it a nice rounded approach. But on our diploma course, we would do these bits via Zoom. So we'd have like Zoom meetings, and we'd go through this. And then when we meet up as a group, we would then be able to just go through all the practical stuff, all the fun bits. So our next course starts mid-October, and if you book before September 30th, that's 2020, you get the whole course for $1,299, so 1,299. That is a bargain by any stretch. And the idea behind that price was to get people back into education, back into gyms, post-COVID lockdown in the UK. After the 30th September, we go to our normal price, which is $2,299, so $2,299. And there's payment plans and such available for that. So I hope this makes sense. Class sizes will hopefully be more than 6 at the moment. They can only be groups of 6, but our average class size moving forward will be 10. So please book on. If you're interested, you can contact me directly. You can go to our Instagram page, which is onezen.academy. Message us on there, or message me on kieran.cronin@yahoo.co.uk. So that's KIERON.CRONIN@yahoo.co.uk. Thank you for your time, guys. I really appreciate you listening and going through this. I hope you've actually learned something from this as well that you can kind of carry forward, and I hope it sparked an interest for you to become more, or want to become more, or want to learn more. So thank you very much, guys. Take care.